Media encoder, media encoder, media encoder. What's happening, and thank you for checking in to the 24th floor. It is Thursday, May the 8th, and there's a whole lot going on with the playoffs. They roll on, unfortunately, without the Memphis Grizzlies, but they are thrilling nonetheless. Gabe Kuhn of the Gabe Kuhn Show will tell me how the Knicks somehow got up on the Celtics 2-0 after another big comeback. The Thunder bounced back to even their series, and the Cowboys, well, they traded for George Pickens? We'll talk about all that coming up on the 24th floor. Joining me on the show today, the one, the only Gabe Kuhn, host of the Gabe Kuhn Show on 92.9 ESPN here in Memphis, a former Memphis Tiger and Mr. First Team All-AAC. Gabe, I actually went to look up your socials, and I didn't realize you were first team, brother. I didn't know I was in the presence of such greatness, of such an athlete.
Yeah, it's a different type of first team than Tony Allen. You know, he did first team all defense, first team all AAC, baby. You got to own your accolades sometimes. You have to.
I mean, as an offensive lineman, you are kind of first team all defense, right? Defending the quarterback. It's the
okay. I like how you twisted that. All right, I respect that.
You know what I'm saying? How you doing, brother? How are things? How's life?
Man, I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. I just turned 30 last week. Feeling, having that 3 in front of my name just feels a little bit different, but I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well.
Well, happy belated to you. You
appreciate it.
Certainly put the fear of God in me because I'm a year off as well. It's a scary world out here. You know who else is scary for right now? The Boston Celtics. Let's get into our big idea of the day.
It's Tatum. Robinson's on him. Tatum maneuvering. Oh, the ball knocked away. Another great defensive play for the Knicks. They've got it. They've won it. New York has gone up 2-0.
The New York Knicks have once again shocked the Boston Celtics thanks to another 20-point comeback win. New York held Boston without a made basket for 8 minutes plus while finishing the game on a 23-6 run. That series now heads back to the Garden on Saturday. Hear from Joe Mazzulla and the Knicks as well.
Yeah, they made every play, and like I said, even throughout the end of the fourth quarter, I thought we generated some good looks, and then I thought we had some live ball turnovers, and they took advantage of it. So they made the necessary plays to win. We put ourselves in position to do that, and we just didn't make the plays.
Going home, realizing the opportunity we have, we just got to make sure we're still locked in. Nowhere close to being done. Just keep making sure our mindset is the same.
Gabe, my guy, can you believe that the Celtics blew another 20-point lead in the fourth quarter? Because I can't.
I mean, I can't. I figured game one would be the only one. This team, though, they're so frustrating in both these fourth quarters. It's been the same thing. They decide to take a bunch of threes when they're not falling. They've shot 25% in games 1 and 2. And you just sit here, at some point, you have to ask your players to attack. And I understand that Joe Mazzulla is he plays that analytic ball, right? Where you either take a easy high percentage shot at the rim or you take a three, but there just comes a point where you have to decide to win a ball game. The playoffs have to be played differently. At points throughout them. So I think they need to obviously make their open shots, but when they're not falling, they need to attack more. And, I was thinking about this, and I also want your take on it. It feels like maybe they're a little complacent. last year, it really felt like they just rolled through the playoffs and didn't have much, no one met them with force. So I think they rolled into these playoffs expecting some of the same. It's strange that they have fallen down 2-0 and lost home court advantage as badly as they have.
Yeah, complacency that's kind of an interesting concept that you bring up there. I would agree. They did kind of roll through last year's playoffs. And I think what we know about the Knicks is that they're probably one of the scrappiest teams, if not the scrappiest team outside of maybe the Thunder, that are still in the playoffs thus far. And what I think, as you listen to some of the post-game comments, they were just like, yeah, you got to play to the final whistle. You got to play through every possession. And that's kind of what that felt like to me. And quite honestly, Gabe, it kind of gave me flashbacks to the Grizzlies game where they were up 30 points in towards the end of the regular season, and you just kind of watched a lead slip away, in that Thunder series that they had, and they just kind of watched that series or that game slip away, and it's like, we done got deja vu for that twice now with the Celtics. Yep. I'm shocked. Not so much that the Knicks came back or that they fought kind of through the tape here, but more so that the Celtics allowed it to happen 2 games in a row. You shoot, I think it was 15 for 60 in game 1, and then you go 10 for 40 in game 2 from 3. At some point, I understand sticking to your guns. I understand sticking to the things that got you here. And, the old adage is if you live by the 3, you can die by the 3. And they've been dying by it over these last couple of games. At the same time, you got to give the Knicks credit. Karl Anthony Towns, 21 points, 17 boards, sensational. Jalen Brunson comes through. He really didn't play a great game, but he comes through in the fourth quarter as he's continued to do. He's leading the entire playoffs in points scored. And then at the same time, he's leading the fourth quarter in points scored throughout the playoffs as well. So he keeps coming up clutch. But shout out to Mikal Bridges, man. 14 points in the fourth quarter. And then we showed you that last possession that he's had. You think about what the Knicks went and did in the offseason, all those picks that they gave up to get Mikal Bridges. At the same time, they bring in OG Anunoby, and it's those two guys who are defending Tatum there in that final possession of the game that ultimately gets them that win. I was shocked. I'm still shocked. I feel like as I watched the end of that game and just kind of the championship pedigree that you expect Boston to have and just the mentality there just feels like it hasn't been there these last 2 games.
And I didn't think we'd be here with the Celtics down 2-0, losing home court to the Knicks, but the Knicks brought in Mikal, re-signed OG, traded for Karl Anthony Towns for this reason. They were trying to get over top of the Celtics. Again, I didn't think we'd be here, but it looks like they're having some success with the roster they put together to get over top of this team, and that's good on them.
Do you think that the Celtics get swept? Does the sweep happen? They are 5.5-point favorites in the Garden. Do they get swept?
I can't imagine. Because I just think eventually these shots have to fall, right, Avery? Like eventually.
Eventually, you think so. But if they don't fall in your own building, where are they going to fall?
I mean, think about this. Through 2 games, they have missed 75 threes. Like eventually some of those are going to have to start, hitting the net, so we'll see how that goes. And it's kind of interesting. They're getting open looks. They're just not hitting them, especially late in games when they get into the fourth quarter. And I'll say this too. Jason Tatum, he's got to be better. There's no other way of putting it. I know he catches some unnecessary flack at times, but if he's your number 1 guy, he's your all-NBA guy, he's your all-star, he can't be shooting 39% from the field at 6'8". That's just not how that should work. I think in the playoffs also, he's under 30% from 3. He's got to be better. Got to be better. And then that final play last night was, just couldn't get around Mitchell Robinson and just struggled to go find his own shot at the end.
Yeah, just 13 points for Jason Tatum. He's going to have to be better in Game 3 on Saturday. Let's talk about the other game that happened last night. Not nearly as close. The Thunder reigned all over the Nuggets Game 1 parade with a Game 2 blowout, 149-106. Thunder set a record for most points in a half in playoffs history, jumping out to an 87-56 lead by halftime. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander drops 34 points, and the Thunder held Nikola Jokic to just 17 points and 8 rebounds. That series now heads back to Denver, tied 1-1. Gabe, what'd you think of this one? Did you turn it off at halftime like I did? Because 30 points in the playoffs, I was like, there's no way.
I had it running on my computer while I was watching something else. I just kept it to the side. And I closed down the computer with about 5 minutes to go. But this is what I expected game one to be like this.
Yeah.
They had 1 day of rest. The Oklahoma City Thunder had 8, and it just didn't end up that way. I got to give a lot of respect to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That's a young team, and the narrative about them is that they don't know what they don't know, and were they going to be able to punch back in game 2 after losing late like they did in game 1? And they punched back in a big way. You look at their shooting, 16 for 36 from 3, right around 44-45%. And I thought what they did against Jokic was awesome. I mean, that's one of the worst games I've seen Jokic have all year. And he saves it for game 2 of round 2 of the NBA playoffs. I just thought they switched up looks with him every time down the floor, blitzed him, double teamed him when necessary, and then they're really good with their rotations. I thought they did a good job defensively of holding down Jokic, and that really helped them. I thought they carried that momentum to the offensive side of the ball, knocked down some shots, and did what the Oklahoma City Thunder have been doing all year, if you've been paying attention.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, the Oklahoma City Thunder looked like the Thunder, like we've seen the entirety of the season last night. To your point about what they did to Nikola Jokic, I mean, he's going to be the linchpin of everything the Nuggets do, right? You understand that, and the game plan is, all right, we can slow Jokic down. We probably give ourselves a pretty good chance to win, and that's obviously easier said than done, but they actually got it done last night, and I think they were physical with him. They were fronting him constantly. They switched Jalen Williams onto him as opposed to Chet Holmgren. And I mean, J. Will, not J. Dub. I think that's the right nickname switch there. Whichever one it is. The light skin one
Arkansas Jalen Williams.
Yeah. They switched J. Will on him, and I thought that was just an excellent move. Clearly a change in strategy there. And then you get them to foul out in the third quarter when, of course, they were already down 30 points. So at that point, you knew the game was up. But I think the way they played Jokic was absolutely the right move. And the question now is, can you continue that? Can you do that for games 3, games 4 as the series heads back to Denver? You got to believe if you are Denver that you feel pretty good just about splitting that series in much the same way the Knicks probably would have felt good just by splitting that series. But the Knicks are up 2-0. So that game, that series also moves back to Denver. I believe that game 3 is also on Saturday. So we'll see what they can continue to do as we move forward. We're going to take a quick little break here, but as we come back, we're going to talk about the NFL because the Steelers have traded George Pickens, and where that's headed arguably makes that team one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL. We'll talk about it on the other side.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news. Live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus. Complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
How big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
Welcome back to the 24th floor. The Pittsburgh Steelers resident crash out wide receiver George Pickens is on the move. The Steelers are sending him west. The Steelers are trading Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys for a third-round pick in 2026 and a fifth-round pick in 2027. The Steelers will also send back a 2027 sixth-round pick. Pickens was a second-round pick to the Steelers in 2022, and he's entering the final year of his contract. Had 59 catches for 900 yards and 3 touchdowns last season. There are the full trade details there. You see him there. Pickens to the Cowboys for a third and a fifth-round pick, and the Cowboys get back a 2027 sixth-rounder as well. I'm with my guy Gabe Kuhn of the Gabe Kuhn Show on 92.9 ESPN here in Memphis. Gabe, the Cowboys seemingly got the wide receiver 2 next to CeeDee Lamb. What did you think of this move on both sides? I mean, it seems like a great move for the Cowboys. I'm kind of scratching my head on the Steelers side, though.
Yeah, I am. I'm glad you called him resident crash out wide receiver because I think that's going to play a role here in just a moment. I'll say this. I get it for both sides. I understand it football wise and culture-wise for the Steelers. I'll start with the Steelers. I think this was addition by subtraction for them. Once they got DK Metcalf, George Pickens became expendable. Even though he has been a really good wide receiver for them, caught for 1,000 yards 2 years ago, caught for 900 yards with, Russell Wilson throwing him the ball last year. Even though he has been good, he just has not been good for their culture. He has certainly upset Mike Tomlin on multiple occasions, and we know he doesn't really play that. Now, getting to the Cowboys, I get it from a football sense. You now have a big-bodied, deep ball wide receiver, jump ball wide receiver to pair with CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb can move inside, outside. He can play from the slot, play from the outside position, and now you have your big-bodied outside receiver. Now, even though I get it from a football sense, it doesn't mean I don't have questions about it. I think he needs to hone in his route running to really fit in Dallas's offense with Dak Prescott, because he really sort of thrives in that West Coast. You run a bunch of different routes,
right,
over the middle of the field, intermediate, short, all that. I don't know if George Pickens really has that in his repertoire right now. He just sort of runs 9 routes. And then obviously the culture part of this thing. If we look at the history of hothead Steelers wide receivers who have gone elsewhere in the NFL, I'm telling you right now that track record is not very good, Avery. I don't know if you've paid attention to that. Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, Deontay Johnson, the list goes on and on. So usually when the Steelers let somebody go, let somebody walk, there's a reason for that. If Mike Tomlin lets a guy walk and doesn't like his attitude, there's usually a reason for that. So I have my concerns, but I will say, Avery, I get it on both sides. I get why the move was made.
Yeah, to me, your first point in it being addition by subtraction, I think is the one that stands out to me the most, because we know how much the Steelers have dealt with not just real wide receivers, but just skilled players in general who have been kind of headaches for the culture of a team that, by all accounts, seems to be pretty in order when it comes to what Mike Tomlin is going to allow and not allow. And, at the end of the day, we know that talent sometimes will trump personality and culture fit at times, but there's only so far that you're going to allow the rope to go, right? And I think that's where Mike Tomlin got to at this point here. You think about Bell, you think about Antonio Brown. These are all guys that they have shipped out and were ultimately better for it without George Pickens. Now, the question is, can the Cowboys rein and George Pickens in? Because, I don't think that's a organization that is very disciplined, I guess. Their culture is not quite, it's not anything that the Steelers have. Now, will I say, at the same time, you've got a wide receiver in CeeDee Lamb who, I won't say he's not nearly the hothead that George Pickens is, but he is kind of a diva, just a little bit. So from a purely football standpoint, I think this is great. I think this is a 1-2 punch that's probably one of the best in the NFL. And this is my second question to you now. Where does this put the Cowboys in terms of wide receiver duos in the NFL? Because I thought that DK Metcalf and George Pickens was probably going to put them in a top 5 scenario, and now that heads down to Dallas.
I haven't gotten to think on exactly where I'd rank them. Right now, my thought is easily top 5. Maybe, if we're being real, 2 or 3 in the NFL.
2. Yeah.
It might be, because obviously you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. We can think of, if you like Jalen Waddle, you have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill. If I'm forgetting anybody, let me know. I think that they're absolutely in that tier, maybe a tier ahead potentially of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, considering what they did last year. But they're going to have Tua healthy, and we'll see what that looks like. But I'd say top 5 easy. Top 5 easy. But you got to keep George Pickens happy. And how do you keep him happy? Target him. We'll see. We'll see how much they can target him. I'm interested to see that because we know CD Lamb, he eats up 150 targets a year. How many? How many more can actually go down too much?
I don't think those targets for CD are going to go down too much. And I think an interesting part of this, I would agree with you. I do think it's probably in that top 2 to 4 kind of scenario because I do think that the Bengals wide receiver room is probably the best. I'd probably give it to the Dolphins, but they definitely have to. They're on a come up. They got to kind of prove it once again, especially once you get Tua Tagovailoa back in the mix there. I still kind of like the Rams. What they got going on is, but they're trying to get rid of Cooper Kupp over there. So I don't really know.
Devontae Adams and Puka actually might be at the top of the list right now. Honestly.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, you're totally right. I completely forgot that Devontae Adams was over there in LA now. Yeah, that's a huge one. So I would say that's got to be up there a little bit. Another interesting tidbit of this to me is that the Cowboys. It's been reported that the Cowboys are not going to immediately extend the contract of George Pickens. They're going to allow him to play out his extension year. And what I think is interesting is going to be you're going to see how well he does fit in because he's obviously going to be motivated to play really well in order to get a potential contract extension. I think it kind of works out on both sides because you're trying to see as the Cowboys, all right, how is George Pickens going to behave in our locker room? Can we keep him around long term? And if you're Pickens, you're trying to see like, okay, how much am I getting the ball here with a CD Lamb on the other side of the equation? So. Pickens is due $3.6 million in base this year, and it'll be interesting to see what the Cowboys decide to do with him after this year in a year that they're trying to get an extension. What do you kind of think about that?
It's a nice trial run. I agree with you on that. But as far as extending him, I don't know how that's going to go. They have to deal with Micah Parsons. I don't know if they haven't gotten that done.
Got a lot of money tied up a lot of places.
They are so late to extend people. If George Pickens plays well, I could see him getting an extension, but he's going to be the type of guy that asks for a lot of money. And we know that the Cowboys have been very hesitant on all of their contract extension discussions. So I would bet on George Pickens not getting the extension, but obviously things could change depending on how well he plays.
All right, so Gabe Kuhn is on the underside of the over-under of whether or not they bring back George Pickens. What do you think this means for CD Lamb, quickly?
Yeah, not much. I think CD Lamb's gonna be nice. He just has somebody else that can take targets away and be a nice red zone threat other than him. It may actually help him in the grand scheme because you have to pay attention to George Pickens, and that may allow CD Lamb to get one-on-one coverage a little bit more.
I think the bigger question for me is I think you understand the Cowboys are going to throw the ball around the yard a whole lot. Their run game is really nothing to speak of up until now. But now I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver room. It's DK Metcalf. It's Robert Woods, who was an undrafted free agent. Calvin Austin, our guy, of course, a Memphis Tiger. But also they got Rock Taylor. They was an undrafted free agent this year, so I don't know. Maybe Rock Taylor makes some noise.
And shout out my guy Calvin Austin III. I mean, he's basically their number 2 wide receiver.
Right, and he already was, so nothing really changes for him.
And he might get an extension soon. I'm happy for him with this whole thing.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Gabe, I really appreciate you joining us, brother. Always a pleasure.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your football knowledge, especially on this Thursday, and we'll see you next time.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks.
For sure. All right, coming up, we're going to take a little break. The Tigers are preparing for next season and have got themselves a tournament in a very tropical destination. A look at their 2025 schedule coming up next after the break.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app, streaming 24/7 local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
How big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24 Plus. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24 Plus. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24 Plus. Download free on your TV now.
Welcome back. We knew the Memphis Tigers were on a track for a good season in 24-25 after they shook things up in the Maui Invitational, beating the defending champions in UConn and then beating Michigan State. Now, the Tigers will try to have a similar breakout in the Bahamas. The Tigers will play in the Baha Mar Hoops Bahamas Championship on November 20th and 21st in Nassau. The four-team tournament also features Purdue and Wake Forest, Purdue being a Sweet 16 team this season. Last season's event featured Tennessee, Baylor, St. John's, and Virginia, three of those teams going to the tournament. This is the third year in a row that the Tigers have played a non-conference tournament in a tropical locale. They are actually returning to the Bahamas after playing there 2 years ago. They're coming off a 29-6 season where they won the AAC regular season and conference tournament and clinched a 5 seed in the Big Dance. That all started with 2 big wins in last season's Maui Invitational. Memphis had one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country last year, and it looks like they ain't ducking no smoke again this year. A big event coming to Memphis next week. The Memphis Sports and Events Complex will host the Nike EYBL tournament for the third year in a row. The AAC tournament is part of Nike's Peach Jam circuit and features top high school talent from across the country with teams full of 4- and 5-star recruits. The last couple of seasons have featured the sons of stars like Carmelo Anthony's Kian Anthony, I believe that's how you say it, LeBron James' son Bryce, and the Boozer twins, who are both headed to Duke now. 2 years ago, Cooper Flagg was in the building. This year is also huge because it'll be a live period, meaning college coaches can come watch the event. The economic impact to Memphis is expected to be in the millions of dollars. On the baseball diamond, the Memphis Redbirds are getting real cheesy. The team will temporarily rebrand themselves as the Memphis Barbecue Nachos for 2 games of their series with the Nashville Sounds next weekend. To celebrate the team's 25th anniversary and the origin of barbecue nachos in Memphis, the Redbirds will rock nacho-themed jerseys with a tan, brown, and gold-colored concept. And speaking of the Redbirds, they lost a heartbreaker on Wednesday night, taking on the Charlotte Knights, and that ball right there is bye-bye, baby, gone. Corey Julks with a walk-off home run in the bottom of the 10th inning to send the fans home happy. It's the second game in a row that the Knights have won a walk-off on the Redbirds. The series continues tonight with a 6:05 first pitch, that being Thursday, of course. News out of Starkville, Mississippi State announces they are building a new indoor practice facility. They'll also renovate the existing Leo Seal Jr. football complex. The 2 projects estimated to cost $60 million to build, with a planned groundbreaking in 2027 and the indoor facility opening in 2028. The project still needs approval from the Mississippi Institutions of Higher Learning. And Mississippi State had a pretty good season last year. We'll see what they can do. Unfortunately, they did fall to Ole Miss in the Egg Bowl, so we'll actually see. Coming up, we'll wrap up the show with a little brotherly love. That's going to be on the other side of the break. I got to talk about my own little brother. You're going to see coming up next.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24 Plus. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24 Plus. The 24 Plus TV app. Streaming 24/7. Local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24 Plus, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
some severe thunderstorms, and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. Those storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
It's how big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24+. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24+. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24+. Download free on your TV now.
My name may not be on the title of the show, but the cool thing about hosting your own show is that you get to pick the content. And that's why the best thing I saw this week comes from my stepbrother, Ty Pete. Playing for the Everett Aqua Sox of the Seattle Mariners organization, he shows off the clutch gene. Bottom of the 10th inning, knocks an RBI double off the wall to knot the game up at 4 apiece. The Aqua Sox would win it in walk-off fashion in the 11th inning, 5-4. I just got to throw the shout out to my big little bro. And I say big little bro because he is actually 6'4", and I am just a 5'8" man. But he's been playing fantastic over there with the Aqua Sox. Won't be too long until we're getting the call up to the Seattle Mariners because I know they need some help. Bring the shot back to me real quick. We'll talk on Cam 4. The other thing, honorable mention for best thing I saw this week, we talked about the Knicks earlier. Paul Pierce made a guarantee that the Celtics were not going to lose game 2. He said if they did, he'd wear a robe and walk barefoot to work. And shout out to Paul Pierce because he was true to his word. He posted a video of him walking to the studio today for Fox Sports. Anyway, that's all we got on the show today. Shout out to my guy, Jared Robinson. Shout out to Richard Denson. We're back on Monday for another episode of the 24th Floor. Until then, I will see you guys later.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 24 Plus app everywhere you stream.